Hey everybody, I'm Meredith Doty, and this is Sweating Shirtless. Every episode, I dive deep into unpacking the fitness world through a body confident and inclusive lens while picking the brains of inspiring, brilliant, accomplished, honest, new, and old friends talking about their experience with sweating shirtless. Today, we're talking to everyone's biggest cheerleader, hype man, and theme king, Jared Myers. After growing up in the Midwest, Jared is taking Boston by storm with his energizing, inclusive, and freaking fun spin classes. I'm so excited for today's episode. I think you're gonna love it.
All right, Jared, thank you so much for joining Fighting Shirtless.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you really sparked my thought process on eventually starting this. So it only makes sense that you're here right now.
Well, I can't wait for what we're about to discuss. And congrats on getting this launched and
Yeah.
started. Uh,
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, obviously, I've been procrastinating it for a while. Like, I'm like, I'll just keep it as my little secret for a while.
yeah,
But yeah, I always appreciate you. You've really pushed me into thinking like bigger with my ideas, especially with inclusivity and body confidence, and diversity when it comes to spin and in life in general. So I really appreciate that about you. Thank
thanks.
you for being you. So I'm assuming you did teach this weekend. How were classes?
Yeah, so I taught, let's see here, about seven classes between Thursday and yesterday. So all the classes were great. As you probably have seen, we are adding more ClassPass people to our classes. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
exciting because for the first time in a long time, I had a class yesterday where I didn't know a single soul. Like I didn't know a single person in there. Typically, like some of our like writers, our Judies have been like showing up. Um, but then yesterday was the first time that like it was a full like set of like ClassPass people who I've never met before, and like I don't know about you, but I love going into a class where you just don't know, no, you don't know anybody because it's an opportunity to really make a connection with somebody new, and it's so fun. I love that.
Yeah, I like meeting. I mean, that's the best part about teaching and being part of a community like the Handlebars. You get to meet new people and your community grows. So, yeah, ClassPass is awesome. I mean, I was a ClassPass user in the past, and it's just a great way to learn new studios and meet new people
Yeah.
and find new workouts.
hmm
So, this is a side note, but with how many classes you teach in a week? I mean, seven with it just within a few days span is like the amount I teach in a full week. What's your recovery game like? What do you do?
So, how do I recover?
Mhm.
Um, do you want the honest answer? Do you?
Yes, this is Sweating Shirtless. Honest answers only.
In all honesty, after my classes, I go home. Typically, my boyfriend has made a, a dinner with healthy carbs. Typically, last night we had pasta with some meat sauce, which was amazing. He's Italian, so this is like in his blood. He knows how to like. He does an amazing job. And then I recently bought
Yeah.
a pen, like a vape pen to like smoke with, and it just like helps my body to just like just
So,
relax, take long hot showers, just like giving my body physically what it needs, like being horizontal as much as possible when I'm not moving around helps my recovery. And then also because like I after classes, I know a lot of instructors face this, but like especially after an evening class, your mind is just going, 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 going. And
yeah.
so I have to find ways to like help myself to like calm down and get ready for bed because sometimes I'll be teaching at 6 a.m. the next day, or it's like I just
Yeah.
really need to sleep. So I find ways to, um, whether it's like CBD oils or a pen, or even if it's just like chilling out, listening to music with the candle, eating healthy, drinking lots of fluids. That's typically like my go-to. Nothing that you wouldn't be surprised about, I guess. Um, so yeah, any fun tricks that you have that you like to share for recovering?
Um, well, my candle game is strong, so candles always relax me. I always like pop one on. I do have a hypervolt now, which is a percussion gun,
hmm
and especially like my quads are. always been strong, and they just get really tight. So I'll just go in with the gun for a while until it's like I feel like a little release there. And I just started upping my bubble bath game. I'm kind of like I, I struggle with self-care like bubble baths because I get really bored very quickly. I'll be in there and be like, okay, the bubbles are here now what am I supposed to do?
You're
But
supposed
I'm
to
like
play
learning
in
to
the
slow
bubble.
down.
Okay.
I've been playing with them. Well, there was like so much bubbles, like frothy bubble. I'm like, I'm like hidden underneath all the bubbles. You can't even
Yeah,
like see anything but my like head. I'm like, all right, this is fun. Make like a little snowman of bubbles.
exactly.
But yeah, I'm learning to like slow down. It's
Do you
hard for
do
me.
with your bubble baths? Because in my old apartment, I had like a nice big tub. Do you do like Epsom salts or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have Epsom salt. I do an Epsom salt block, and then this like ball, bubble bath ball that I found from Whole Foods that's like for muscle recovery, and I
Oh
put that
no.
in. I
Okay,
don't
cool.
even know if they actually do anything, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah.
a if have, Lush. They do like the organic body soaps and bath bombs and whatnot. They have one that has salt in it for muscle recovery, but it also has seaweed in it, which I thought is
Ooh,
really cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
it's pretty interesting.
Seaweed is like nature's gift. I've read in the past that cultures that have diets high in seaweed have a longer life expectancy.
Mm, good
Fun
to know.
fact for the day. Yeah. So let's jump in. I want to start with where you came from and how you got into fitness. And I know that you're not from Boston, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I am from good old Columbus, Indiana. I spent my like all through high school there, and then I went to Indiana University after that. So about a 45-minute drive away from Columbus, but it's like a 40,000 student campus, so it's a huge school, a Big Ten school for all of you football lovers, sport lovers out there. Um, and so yeah, there wasn't really the only exposure to fitness that I had was like your typical just gym, I would say. Like the student rec centers, they had classes as well, but there weren't really a lot of like boutique fitness type studios. So there weren't really any yoga studios, there weren't really any spin studios, bar, whatever it is. So the Midwest, as far as I can see, outside of the major cities, are not really saturated with boutique fitness. So then when I moved out here, it was just a whole new world, like Little Mermaid, just like,
Mm.
oh my goodness, give me everything. Um,
Yeah.
and Class Pass was a big deal when I moved out here, like my first summer as an intern, and then I just fell in love with it. And my the one workout that I fell in love with the most was spin. So I just loved the opportunity to dance and listen to loud music and like what might feel like a club or concert setting. So that's sort of a little bit
Yeah.
of a background on me.
And your classes are definitely, they bring the party, they bring the vibes, which is so fun. Party on a bike for sure.
A party, yeah, definitely.
Extra lights included.
Yeah, rave rides every Friday, or like I did a disco ride the other day, so I brought in a disco ball. It was so fun.
That is so fun.
hmm
Um, so we, so you, starting into boutique fitness. So when did you decide that you wanted to become an instructor?
I decided I wanted to become an instructor the summer of my internship. When it came to a close, I knew that I was offered a job back in Boston, and so I knew that at some point when I moved back that I was going to want to teach. Um, and so I hopped around from studio to studio trying to figure out what would be the right fit for me. Um, you know, I'm already busy as it is with my 9 to 5 job that I didn't want to like rush into something if it didn't feel right. Like if a studio didn't feel right to me, or it could have just been anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of hopping around and eventually ended up on landing with like Handlebar. So it took some time. So after about 3 years after I moved back, that's when I sort of decided, all right, let's do it. And it actually was a breakup that pushed me to the point to go ahead and seek out to audition. So
It's amazing how those big life changes like breakups really can propel you into something bigger that you maybe thought of, but just didn't find time or didn't have the extra push to do.
yeah,
Just like a dark time, just there's a little tunnel of light in there.
yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a very dark time, whereas like I was surrounded by darkness, but then there was this like little light, and then I just like ran towards it. I was just like, it gave me something to
Yeah,
do, something to look forward to, something to challenge myself with. And it definitely, I think ultimately it helped with me moving on too. So,
yeah.
although I wanted to teach and like it was always going to be something that I was going to do, who would have guessed that chasing after a dream kind of helped you to push away all the bullshit that's been holding you back? So,
Well, I mean, you focus on yourself, right? And, you don't have to focus on the other person anymore, which is
exactly.
awesome. And that's a great segue into your classes. Is you really focus on yourself, and the writers focusing on themselves in the class, which stands out to me as a writer of your class.
hmm Yeah, well,
Um,
I think I
yeah,
want every single person that walks into the room to accept where they are in their own life, accept where they are in their own body, and feel freedom and feel safety and feel inclusion to walk in and get in the workout that they want to get in. So,
definitely. What are some things that you do when you first start, when you get the mic pack on, you open the doors for everyone to start riding their bikes. So what are some things to set up that space for them?
say that last part one more time.
What are some of the things that you do to set up that inclusive space for the riders?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I do, and I should say it's very different talking about this because we're currently working in a global pandemic. So a lot of the things that I would do prior to this still apply, but in a very different sort of way. So pre-pandemic, Jared would encourage folks to just turn to their neighbor and introduce themselves. And then I would go around and introduce myself to new faces, people that I haven't really seen before, or maybe people that I have seen before but haven't seen in a while. And I think just getting familiar with the space around you, with the people around you, I think removes a barrier for a lot of people because you're like, I don't know anyone here. This is really intimidating. And I think one thing that you and I love is the community that Handlebar fosters. And so, while some people may only come once in their life, they're still part of the Handlebar family. They still at least met somebody, right? And so, one thing that I try to do is make sure everybody at least knows one other person's name, even if it's just mine. Um, and then the next thing I do is I'll just go over everything, right? So, typically, Handlebar, we have our method and we explain the method to everyone before class. But I'll always stop and say, like, I will never yell at you if you need to sit down, grab water. If you can't hit the beat at any point in time, it's okay. I'll make sure I reiterate that, while this is a workout and while everything I offer is a suggestion, it's just that. And so if something's just not in the cards for you in that moment in time, that is totally fine. And you do not need to feel pressured to do it. Do what feels good to you. And so I'll mention, like, so for example, if we're out on a run and the run is just not feeling good to you, you can always turn it up and find a hill and just push against the resistance. There's always something else that you can do so that way then you feel like you're still able to do something in that moment. And there's never a right way, a wrong way. It's only, okay, well, what's next? All right, well, this isn't working, so let's jump to the next thing that does work for me. Um, and then when everyone is in there and they're ready to dance and sweat and have fun, I like to pump up the room, and so the energy starts to like spark up, and people are like, "Yeah, now we're in it." So that's what I usually do. Now, recently, as of this past year and me working on myself, trying to become or practicing anti-racism every day, practicing inclusion every day. I've also been starting some of my classes, and I always will end with this message too, is I'll say that, fitness is for everyone without regard to age, gender, the size of your waistline. Ability is one thing. The color of your skin. At that point, I will always say Black Lives Matter. Sexual orientation, gender expression. I like to essentially say, hey, in this room, it takes everyone to create an inclusive space so everyone feels safe to dance, to sweat, to sing, to have fun. And then I sort of challenge everybody to, okay, let's create that space together right here, right now. And that's what we do. And so that's one new thing that I've started implementing as of a month and a half ago that I've really enjoyed doing. And I know a lot of writers have also really appreciated doing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true when you just said having the inclusive space and feeling welcomed. The writers that feel included and welcome are more likely to open up and really enjoy the class versus being in their head the whole time. Mm-hmm. And that's really, the secret sauce of spin is when people just kind of like get out of their heads and go balls to the wall and just like have a great time. That's my favorite part of spin.
Yeah.
It can get crazy and we love it.
You just become a completely insane person who just like the music takes over the body and you're just like out of your mind, out of your body. You're like, what is this person doing right now?
Yeah, it's so fun. You definitely like black out within class and it's the best feeling ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, even though we were talking about self-care, like recovering from spin, like inside of those moments where those blackout moments in spin is self-care for me, because I'm like, I feel like we're all in our heads so much lately that it's a great time to get out of it and really just feel the moment, which is awesome. Have you ever had an experience in fitness that like really sparked you to be even more inclusive? Like, have you been to a class or had an experience out in the world that was like jarring to you, that sticks in your head? Or extra positive. We don't have to be negative.
Well, one thing that I've noticed is that like we have all started somewhere, right? When I first started spin, I could not hit that double time beat on those runs, right? I would there were a couple classes where I would even get sick afterwards because I pushed my body a little too hard. And I just remember those moments of like, part of me felt defeated, but also part of me was just like, okay, well, this is just part of the process. Like it came down to, I just loved the workout so much that I was just like, that's just like, whatever. That's just my body needing to catch up and needing to slow down if needed. And so I always typically remember that everyone starts somewhere. And then even if you've made a lot of progress, sometimes a global pandemic happens and you have to take 5 months off. And then everyone's back to zero again, right? And so I think for me, I've had moments in classes where instructors are not very empathetic or compassionate to newer writers or let's just say this, folks with different abilities. I don't want to assume anything else, whether they have any, we'll call them isms, but meaning like certain prejudices that keep them from wanting to create a great class for everyone. Things like, if someone is not holding the beat, they'll stop the class or go over to the person and be like, making them feel like this is your fault that we're not moving on, or you need to hold the beat, and like kind of calling them out in a way that's not very kind. So I've seen that. I've seen instructors actively make people feel embarrassed or excluded because they're not where they need to be, which first of all, let me say you are exactly where you need to be in any given moment. And if someone tells you otherwise, then quite frankly, they should not be teaching. That's my personal opinion. So I think it's certain moments like that when I realize that you have to have spaces so people feel safe and welcoming, especially in fitness and especially in boutique fitness where it's quite homogenous. And it's changing. I'm seeing it. There are studios that are creating more inclusive environments. There are instructors that are putting in the work, instructors like you who are putting in the work to make people feel welcome and make them feel safe. So that way, then eventually, guess what? If they can't hit the beat now, or maybe they never hit the beat, they're learning to love the way their body moves in any given moment, and they're loving the environment, and they themselves are starting to thrive. Even if you throw out something they can't necessarily do it, they want the challenge. They're ready for it.
Yeah.
So I think those were some of the experiences that I've had where instructors are actively calling people out for not being able to do something, even though it's like you never know what their story is. So
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I've been to classes like that in the past, and it's always kind of like it's like jarring. It's weird. It's like, are we in a boot? Like, are we in the army at this point, or like, I was paying you to like teach me? Like, I'm the customer here.
yeah,
Yeah, it is
it's
funny.
like it's not the walkouts
It's
here.
weird. I mean,
we're not all
to
supposed to
some,
be directly in sync with each other. My goodness, it's a big
yeah, I know we're not robots. I mean, to some extent, I do understand like different people are motivated by different like styles of instruction, and I understand that, but then to some degree you don't know who's in your class and who's going to respond to that and who's going to have like that could like scar someone and they would never like return.
There's a difference between coaching and I would say directing, if that makes sense. So there's a difference between helping someone to get on the beat, helping someone to or encouraging them to turn up the wheel, maybe if their wheel hasn't been turned up and they're on a hill. There are certain things where people just are uncomfortable generally and with the process of it all. But then there's directing and calling people out in front of other people in a way that's can be quite embarrassing. I mean, I've heard stories of people stopping music and being like, "We're not going to start until you're on the beat." It's like,
I know. I don't like that. I wouldn't like
There's
that.
instructor out there that has done that. There's always opportunity to grow and to not, and learn from that. But like I can tell you right now that like if an instructor ever stopped the music and told me that I wasn't doing something right when I am a new writer, I would be embarrassed.
I would be pissed.
I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" I'd be like, "I'm done. Goodbye."
I'd be really upset. I'd be pissed off for sure. Let's move on. I want to talk about body confidence and body positivity because I'm obsessed with it.
Yes.
So the title of this obviously is Sweating Shirtless. Is there and that comes from it derives from at least my first experience taking my shirt off and while I'm working out was like a really kind of moment where it was scary, but I just kind of whipped it off and did it, and it was kind of like an empowering moment. And speaking to others that have, like even riders or like maybe it's their first time doing that in my class, it's such a compliment and it's such a big moment for them. I just want to like squeeze them, even though in COVID times we can't hug. But I think you've told me in the past that riders have come up and said that too, that it was their first time doing it.
Yeah. You
just want to throw a party for them.
Well, and I'll have to be honest with you. Men typically don't take their shirts off in classes. And so that had never been a thought in my head until a writer for the first time came up to me last year and said, your class was the first class that I felt comfortable taking my shirt off and just wearing a sports bra. Um, and I was like, oh, I was like, my initial reaction was like, that's amazing. Like that, like I want you to feel comfortable and like to be able to feel confident in your own body, and like that just meant so much to me. But like it's interesting because like I, as a man, I don't ever am never put into that position. So like I, want to hear more about this, and then hopefully walk away thinking like if what I'm doing is like working and people are feeling comfortable, great. But then like my hope is too, it's like what else can I do to make folks feel more comfortable even, because I'm not a woman, and I don't necessarily feel the pressure to always have to ride with a sports bra on. So yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a pressure. So it's
Mhm.
totally your choice. And it's not expected at all. And speaking to other instructors who have been teaching in boutique fitness longer than I have, it's like a new thing that
Okay.
everyone rides with. Not everyone, but people are starting to teach and ride and just um, topless. So it's never expected, and it's not like you should feel one way or the other about doing it. It's totally a personal choice. And like, if I don't have the right bra on, then I have to wear a shirt anyway because I can't give. That's not something they pay for. Is for my tits to come out, So sometimes I will wear. So I just want to make it clear, you do. It's not like a thing that you have to. But for me, I don't know. I just always thought it was reserved for people with six packs that could pull it off. And then I don't know. I just decided one day that I wanted to. And I think there was a time in my life where I was really trying to achieve the typical spin instructor, fitness instructor body. And I reserved the moment of teaching without a top on for when I finally achieved this unrealistic goal. And then there was a day that came where I said, I'm done waiting to look a certain way or waiting for something that's never going to happen to really live my life how I want to live it. I'm just going to do it now. And that was just like a little mini protest, really, of just saying screw society's expectations that I've just made up in my mind, but I'm going to actively choose to do this just because I want to do it, and that's basically it. And I think that nowadays fitness instructors the fitness industry is slowly getting more diverse. So the more body confident, oh hi Griffey, see him in the background. Hi Griffey. The more diverse instructors and leaders that we have in this space, the more it's going to improve and people are going to feel more confident. And I spoke with someone else on another episode that will come out another time. And she's not a fitness instructor, and she doesn't work out without a shirt on, but she feels like if she were to go to a group fitness class and the instructor looked more like her, then she would be more likely to dress like that instructor, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to see a leader in their space that looks like them because it makes it makes you feel like you could do it too if they look like you. No matter what your age, your waistband size, the color of your skin, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think across the board, not even in fitness, like we need more diversity in our leadership positions in the world.
Yeah, down with the patriarchy, as I like to say. I two reactions to what you just said, and like, I mean, I don't think we can thank you enough, Mayor, for pulling this Sweating Shirtless together. I think um, you said it's almost like your mini protest, right? And that reminded me of one of Madonna's best quotes that I always like to say in class, which is, um, she wouldn't be where she is if she didn't have so many things to protest against, right? So if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like woman's sexuality. That is Madonna. Like she owns
Hmm.
that, and she is unapologetic about it. I mean, if you haven't seen her YouTube videos of her performing like a virgin on stage back in the 80s, you've got to watch it. I won't go into details of what happens, but like she owns her sexuality and owns women's sexuality, and it's just like expressing
I got
herself the way
homework.
she wants to express herself, right? Um, and I love that quote because it's like if you see a wrong, protest against it with by doing it yourself, like proving that it's wrong, um, by just going ahead and not waiting, just like doing it. Like so for her, it was like not shying away from female like sexuality because it was sort of like taboo and you don't talk about it. She's like, well, no, I am going to talk about it and then I'm going to perform to it and I'm not going to apologize for it. And then slowly a revolution occurs, right? And I think this is
Hmm.
exactly what I think you are doing right here is, tackling body confidence head on with your own acts of protest that people are starting to follow and protest with you and engaging you on. And so I think that's what a leader does. And so you are a leader when it comes to a lot of these things. So you should definitely be proud of yourself for that.
Thank you,
I'm
Jared.
proud
That's
of
so
you. I'm
sweet of
proud to
you.
call you a friend and colleague. You're
Thanks.
an inspiration to
That's
me.
so kind. Well, I mean, it came from just wanting to have these conversations. I mean, everyone has a different point of view, and everyone has something to say and contribute to the conversation. I mean, I never thought that it would just be me talking to the camera for 30, 45 minutes. I don't have that much to say, but other people do. So why not make a series about it? That's kind of how
Yeah.
it started. And it started from our candid conversations about it, which
Mhm.
is, they are important conversations to have. And I wish that I had something like this when I was starting out wanting to be in the fitness industry and wanting to be a fitness instructor because I just, again, going back to that feeling of I wasn't going to be good enough until I looked like it. Um, and that's just not the case.
Mhm. That feeling of
Um,
I'll never be good enough unless I'm like that, because I've been in that too. It's pretty damaging, um, on your soul, on your heart, on your mind. Um, and then I found freeing yourself through your own acts of protest because I've had my own acts of protests. It's like you're breaking away from certain chains that are holding you back from living your life. Um, so a lot of this definitely is, you know, resonating well with me. So, and I'm sure many others. And you're right. We wish we could have had this sooner, but hey, look at you trailblazing and offering this. So, and you did say one thing earlier, which is when you see more folks in the fitness industry that look like you're going to want to um, like go to the classes and feel more comfortable, and feel included and safe. And then I would even go as far further to say, especially in boutique fitness where it is largely homogenous, white women who are fully abled, primarily thin, um, anyone that's different, people will flock to and feel safe with, I think, because they are themselves, whether they agree with it or not. If a particular fitness space or style of workout is like the clients and the instructors and the studios, whatever it is, are homogenous, but then they sort of break into that space that is somewhat an active protest. It's whether or not you want to call it an active protest, but it's saying, hey, this is, you don't need to look like the what you see or hear about. Like, everyone is welcome to do this, and it's fun, and it is for everyone. And so it's taking that and being confident. So if I would say, for anyone out there that feels like they don't look like an instructor, but they want to be one, you can be one. There's not one body type, there's not one skin tone, there's not one sexual orientation, there's not one. You don't have to be fully able to do everything to be an instructor. You have to have the drive, you have to have the passion for it, you have to want to create an experience that is welcoming and inclusive for everyone. So, like you've said, you don't have to have a certain look to you. You just have got to want to pour your heart and soul into it.
Yeah. Passion is the most important. And if you don't look like the typical instructor, we need you. So please, the fitness industry needs you. We want you.
We want you.
We want to. But it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, technical skills can be learned, but uniqueness and passion can't be taught. We need to diversify things up, and it'll make things more interesting, and then it'll blaze the path for other people that are like you down the line.
Yeah. And then I would even say, like, and this is something that I'm trying to come to terms with, is that try other workouts too. I mean, this is something that I look up to you for, because you are someone that's like, oh, I've been to that studio, this studio, I've tried that workout, and you're just like all over the map and just enjoying all different kinds of spaces. And I'm sure you're learning so much about how to create a certain space just because you've been to a lot of them. So, even trying fitness spaces that maybe are Black owned, or, something else that's like not the typical white female owned places or male owned spaces like gyms. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to go to other places that maybe is not exactly dominated by people that look like you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that look like me, so I'm white and blonde, so I'm not that unique, unfortunately, but that's okay. But yeah, next on my list is this. It's called Shirtless in Boston. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I need to go. So my thing is, like, I can dance on a bike, but when it's about dancing on the ground with my 2 feet, like, I'm not as definitely out of my comfort zone. I'm not a great dancer, despite the years of dance classes my parents put me through. Thank you, mom and dad. Still have 2 left feet. But I think it's a little bit of like, you get more confidence when you know the steps really well. Like, I know how to spin really well, so I can be really confident and put my own spice on the bike. So when it comes to dancing, like, I don't know it very well. So I'm like, movements, I'm not going to like take up as much space because I don't know like how to move the right way. So, I mean, the more I do it, the better I look at, obviously.
Yeah. We should go to Sofa together. I think it would be,
it'd be fun.
I would love to get like a group of like either riders and or instructors to like go and just like even do like a little private session. But one thing, have you heard of Trillfit's Pledge? Talk about a studio that's like leading the way. So Trillfit is a Black woman owned business, and the Trillfit's Pledge is like, you can either be a client, a studio, an instructor, whomever, but they're pushing this pledge all across the country. It's a Join Trillfit's Pledge for racial justice, anti-racism, and equality in the wellness industry as an organization. And so they have like a list of pledges that you personally will make and that you will stick to. There's quite a bit of them. There's 6 of them, and it gives you like different bullets of like how to work on each of them. but it's something that I would encourage viewers to go check out. And if you're ready for it, sign up for the pledge. I've signed up for the pledge and I'm working on fulfilling those myself. But, talk about a space that's like unique and like new that we're going to go try out, right? And then they're also doing something that's like they are like really hitting the ground running and leading by example on inclusion, anti-racism, justice. I mean, they're going at it, and it's great. And I know that our studio, Handlebar, has officially signed the pledge as well.
I'll have to. Well, what I'll do is I'll link that in the show description so people can check it out easily. After we record. That's awesome. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll definitely check that out. I don't know why I haven't seen that before.
It's floating
Bringing
around.
something new.
Yeah.
Maybe I have and I forgot, but yes, I need to go. Maybe we could do like a instructor, like a employee. We need like we're overdue for a little employee like ice breaking, like whatever it's called, outing.
Yeah.
And they're doing them at socially distanced, so that could be cool. Something to bring up. Fun.
So fun.
Well, good. Is there anything else that while we're here that you wanted to touch on or chat about?
Yeah. So I think we were touching on the creating a space, like how we as instructors create spaces for everyone to sort of embrace vulnerability, to not necessarily tell them to be confident in their own body, but creating a space that allows them to be confident in their own body. I think that is a difference. But I think one thing that we've talked about is while we're teaching, what is it that we do? And it could be anything that makes people kind of let loose and have fun. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone just wants to have fun at these workouts. I think that's what draws people in, right?
Yeah.
And so that was one thing, and that ties directly into body confidence, really. I mean, so I was just like, I wanted to hear from you because I learned so much from you. Like, what are some of like other than I've coined as the Meredith Doty scream, which pops out on occasion, I hear, but I live for it. Like, what are some things that you just like your go-to, like go wild moments that you think really help? When you look back at it, you're like, wow, that really got the party going, or like, and then you stuck to it. Or it could be anything, any sort of direction you want to take that question in, but like, yeah.
How to get people like out of their heads and just like go balls to the wall. Well, I think it starts from me. So if I'm in one day, like everyone else is going to be in one, because as an instructor, like the energy you could play like classical music, but if you're like so into it, like your energy is going to be infectious. And that's something that I keep going back to. Sometimes I forget how vitally important that can be. So that's, as a side note, as an instructor, it's a huge part of being an instructor is putting whatever shit you got going on outside of those 45 minutes or whatever that is for your teaching. You really have to put it aside and like just be in the moment, because like sometimes I'll catch myself like, I don't know, thinking about other stuff during class, and I really have to like really refocus and stay in the moment, because it detracts from the entire experience. I don't know if you ever experience that, or do you ever do that? Is it just me?
No, I do that.
Start thinking about other shit. Okay, good. I'm like, oh, good thing it's not just me. But yeah, so it's so much about what you bring to the table as an instructor, and a lot of that is song choices. It's so important to put music in there that really fires you up and pumps you up, whatever that may be. But I also like to kind of have ebb and flows within my my playlist, so it's not all like hype every single second. I also like to get a little bit moody, like have a little bit more of an athletic ride at points. But then like I need like some sort of like knives in the microwave blender beat drop on a run at some point in there. Like, I want my ears to bleed a little bit, and that gets me going.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just about being authentically yourself and let your inner freak flag out and fly and bring out your inner badass, and your riders will follow. But it's also about, like, we already talked about this, like, I give modifications. Like, if people are struggling on the flat road, I'd rather them rock out to a hill than try to hold a flat road and be miserable for however long it may be. So I give those modifications during class, especially now that we've all been consistently spinning for a while and are getting back into it. I think, like, my butt hurt for like 2 weeks when I first started spinning, like after quarantine, when I was trying to get back into shape to teach. I was like, I can't even sit down on this thing.
Yeah. I got and this is like maybe like a bit of advice for anyone that's like, oh, I should definitely try out spinning, or like, oh, like I haven't done it in a while. Get yourself a bike seat pad for these classes. Like, I have one, and I'm like, not
just tough it out. Just tough it out.
What?
Just tough it out. I don't believe in bike seat pads.
It's like sitting on gel. I'm like, this is nice.
What I did was, like, the first class I had, or the first time I had back on the bike, when we were getting out of super strict quarantine and started, like, riding to get back into shape, I, like, went balls to the wall with, like, a full 60-minute playlist and, like, crazy, like, and I, like, got through it. But then the next day, or even, like, that night, I was like, oh shit, like, this is not what I was expecting. Like, I'm back to square one. So the next couple rides, like, I did all hills and I didn't sit down, like, no flat roads, like, just hill pushes and stuff, because the saddle hurt. But what I would say, yeah, you can get gel cushion if you're like Jared, but you got to give yourself like 5 classes to, like, really get into it and get your butt used to it. And a lot of it's like doing, like, rubbing your belly and patting your head. But,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I would say.
The letting your inner freak flag fly, I love that. Because Mare, you've got a freak inside of you, and when I know when you've let that out in class, like, I can't help it, but then all of a sudden my freak just wants to hop out and join your freak, and then all of a sudden it's a freaking party, and it's just going crazy.
Yes,
I love that.
I love when
Yeah,
when I get texts after class and they're like, Mare, this bitch is out of control, I'm like, yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I really was.
And those are, like, the moments where you as an instructor, you're like, did I do that? Are you sure? Was that me?
That's the blackout moment. That's those, like, the nails, the knife in the blender microwave moment songs. That's when I really, like, let loose. So good. So good. All right, Jared, thank you so much for joining Sweating Shirtless. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts and your energy always, but especially right now, for joining.
Well, thank you for having me, and I can't wait to watch the whole series.
Yes. So where can our listeners find you? What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Jared with 2 R's, 0 Myers, Myers. You can also go to the handlebars page. You'll find it. I'm sure you might link it or something. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe not. But I'm out there.
Find it in the description of either wherever you're watching or listening to this. And while you're there, be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date and to support your girl. Appreciate you. Bye, Jared.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.